everyone. Just wanted to hop on. It's been a little while, so I just wanted to check in, tap in, and share some intuitive downloads that were coming through. So what Spirit says. And so just a second ago, I wrote down in my journal or my notebook just some automatic writing. So if you don't know what automatic writing is, come join Intuitive Soul School or the digital version of Intuitive Soul School, because it goes through all these intuitive processes that are available to us in our life. So one that I often use and tap into is automatic writing. So it's just a way to channel spirit message and to tap in. So I just did like 5 minutes, not a ton of writing, but 5 minutes of automatic writing. And I asked this question, which is, what does this community need to hear today? So I want to share that message with you, but I also want to take you through what it actually looked like as I received these messages. And with automatic writing, it's all through your hand, all on the paper, but also there was imagery or words that came up that did not make sense at first. And I had to ask more questions like, what about this? What does this mean? And I think that's something that we often forget or leave out as we're feeling into energy as empaths, as we get a random sign or a feeling, and we don't inquire to ask the deeper questions around what that means or what message that has for us. And instead we either push it aside or we just look at it as more of a neutral message, when there might be, for each of us individually, a different meaning behind that. So the first thing that came up for me as I was writing, again, as a message to all of you, is a deep sense of longing. And I'm curious, as I go through all of this, if you guys relate or if you want to share anything, please put it in the comments. But I was feeling this sense of longing, and this question that I want to present to all of you, which is, what are you longing for? What is your heart aching for? What do you deeply desire? But I think it's also important, as the words came out on the page, to read them exactly as they came. So I could, of course, put that into other words, but when I'm giving intuitive readings or healing sessions to people, I always use the words that Spirit gives to me, because that's going to be the way it's meant to be shared or to be communicated. So this question, what are you longing for? And I want you to deeply consider that within your life. And then I got this message that for many of you in this community, it's a longing for what was. So again, those are the exact words that came through, longing for what was. What does that mean? Well, that is a longing for what used to be, something in the past, whether that is a previous version of you, a way that you used to live your life, something that you used to physically have, a relationship, a state of health, etc. So this longing for what was. And so then the guidance from Spirit is to let go of attachment. So if we're attached to or longing for what was, then we're anchoring ourselves into the past. We're throwing these fishing lines with hooks into the past. And so it's important to let go of these attachments so that we don't feel like we are being pulled backwards instead of forward in our life. And then I inquired, and this is a lot of just inquiry. It's a curiosity. It's being inquisitive and asking questions of what's coming through. And so then I got this other message that said, shed the low frequencies. So that makes sense to me in that when you have attachments, then what you're attaching to could be a low frequency. And if you're lugging all those low frequencies along with you as you try to move forward in your life, then it's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel hard. And there's going to be an attachment to what was, whereas if you were to release those attachments, you may actually realize that you don't even desire that anymore, and instead it opens you up to the possibility and potential of the future. Then I got 4 steps, and the numbers came to me first. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they were fill in the blanks. And so I was like, Spirit, what goes inside of these blanks? What is 1? What is 2? What is 3? What is 4? And they came as symbols or an object. So number 1, I saw an apple. And so of course it's that could be interpreted in many different ways, and we all have it in different interpretation. So I asked Spirit, what is the meaning of this apple for you guys, for this community today? And it I see it as like a flow chart almost. It like takes me down this path of other keywords to be able to understand in like within my brain, what does that mean? Because spirit can be like, duh, it means this. Why aren't you getting it? But if I'm not getting it, I have to keep asking these questions like, well, can you show that to me in a different way? Can that be represented by something else that would make more sense to me? So apple turned into nutrients, which, like that saying, apple a day. And so the step one in this like 4-step guideline to shed the low frequencies, to let go of attachments, to like release the longing for what was, is to nourish yourself. So how did apple turn into nourish yourself? Well, by asking questions and getting inquisitive. So step one, nourish yourself. And then I want you each to consider, what does that mean to you? Because again, that's going to be individual. On a bio-individual level, how we nourish ourselves can be different. Number 2, pine cone. So there's this pine cone I saw like super clearly. I wrote down the word pine cone. And so then I inquired, like, what about a pine cone, right? Like, what does this mean? We ask questions. And so pine cones, like seeds and all these like little seedlings. And I was like seeing all these tiny little seeds inside the pine cone. And then there was this energy of like a seed being the symbol of rebirth. And like rebirth on many different levels, because there's many seeds. And then that led into this message of it's never too late to start. So that's guidance 2 or step 2 of these 4 messages or like pathways that are coming through right now, is just a reminder that it's never too late to start. So as far like into something you feel like you are that you can't get out, or as attached to something energetically you feel like, you can always start again. You can always cut that cord. You can always change your trajectory. You can change your mind. You can change your shift, your goal, the focus of your mind. Number 3, a monocle, which I don't use that word, so this is clearly channeled. And I was like, what's a monocle? I had to think about it for a second. And so then that was a good opportunity for me to like ask questions and be like, okay, I don't actually know what this means. Like, can you be more clear? And so then I saw like eyeglasses and this message to look at yourself, to stare yourself in your eyes, and the message is be here for this. Confront your soul. So literally go in the mirror, confront yourself, look at yourself, stare yourself in the eyes, and maybe even say out loud, I'm here for this. And I think that really relates back to the original message of like, what are you longing for, and a longing for what was. If we can be so present in this moment and look ourselves in the eyes and say, I'm here for this now, all of a sudden we're transported into this time-space reality versus all these attachments we have to all the other things external of ourselves, but also back in the past. And it's like a quick like whip. Like I'm imagining like all those cords like just snapping back into your energy body, and bam, you're here and you're totally here for this now. And you're confronting whatever is coming up, because sometimes we attach to the past because we think it's better, or we don't want to fully feel the present and the future or this moment. And so when we let go of that and we say, I'm here for this now, we're also saying, I'm brave enough to be able to feel whatever is surfacing. Number 4, finally, pizza. So of course, like sometimes spirit, depending on what spirit you're tapping into, can be silly. And I feel like this is a very like silly energy that I was tapping into today. So pizza, okay. And then the word like fun was like on the pizza, fun and joy. And the message became more play, more silliness. And this question to present to you guys, which is, if there were no rules, what would you do? So if like, especially if you're somebody who is a rule follower and like does not color outside of the lines and like sticks to the perceived rules or real rules of the world and what she thinks she can and cannot do, what if that was all a lie? And what if you made your own rules? Or what if there were no rules? How would you play? How would you express yourself? What silliness would like erupt out of you, and what would feel joyful for you if you said screw all these rules and just let yourself be and like open up to a greater possibility of like, again, what you can and cannot do, quotes, because those are often just perceived rules of what we can and cannot do, unless we're talking about the law, obviously. Beautiful. Okay, so hopefully you guys have got a good insight into what this process looks for me, where things come up, and for me, I'm very visual, intuitive downloader, and a feeler. So that's clairsentience, and so that's the empath who feels into something. So oftentimes I'll get a picture first, and then I'll ask questions of it, and then it'll give me the actual message that it's there to represent or symbolize. And today's message was those 4 parts, those 4 learnings that we went through, but this overarching kind of lesson, which is to consider, what are you longing for that is part of the past, and can you let go of the attachments, shed the low frequency so that you can step into your power of the future and rise the fuck up.